What's your most questionable doesn't matter had sex story Reddit?
Like and subscribe, or else these'll be in your bed tonight.
This girl I had seen once before brought her dying rat over to my apartment and tried to resuscitate him with a hairdryer. It didn't matter because the rat spazzed out, ran in a tight circle around my bedroom floor, and then keeled over, one leg kicking and everything. She cried for half an hour. I awkwardly consoled her, then we had sex, with the ghost of her dead rat watching from the corner. One night in college I got super drunk and blacked in while fucking this super sexy girl down the hall from behind. I remember thinking, I'm never going to come, so I decided that I would pull the ol' spit on her back and pretend I got my nut so I could get the hell out of there. For all those reading, this move is a manipulated version of the ol' spit on her back then come on her face deal. So I go to do this spit move, spit on her back, but forget to pull my dick out. She turns around and asks if I just spit on her. Yes, I've never seen a girl get dressed so fast. I was parked on a backcountry road with a girl and fully intended on having sex with her. We were making out in the backseat when she stopped me. She said I'm sorry in advance, then she farted. At first we both laughed, but a look of terror quickly filled her eyes. She had sharted in her panties. Being the sly and non-judgmental guy I am, I convinced her to remove and ditch the underwear on that backcountry road. I then proceeded to have sex with her in the back of my '84 Toyota Corolla station wagon. We dated for a few years after that. Riding in an RV, going from Reno to Salem, Oregon. About 3 AM, girlfriend's stepdad was falling asleep at the wheel. He started hitting construction barrels. The whole time, girlfriend and I were having sex in the space above the driver's area. High school. Took this girl on a date and instantly knew she wanted to fuck. The only problem was, where it wasn't very late, maybe 10 PM, so my parents were up at home. So I suggest we pull over on the side of the road to figure out what we want to do before we both go home for the night. So I take the route home that leads through the country and pull over in some orchard on a side road. We do the dirty in the back of my car, and right when we finish and hop back in the front, we see cop lights. Fuck. Anyways, it was pretty obvious what we were up to. He said he stopped because people steal copper wire from the orchards a lot. Then dickhead cop informed me that, since I was past curfew, I was no longer allowed to drive past 10 PM. So he wrote me a ticket and followed me home to make sure I went to my address. There he explained my situation to my parents, who now had to drop off my freshly fucked date at her house since I was not allowed to drive. Awkward as hell, but as you know, doesn't matter. Woke up in the backseat of my car with my pants around my ankles and a cop rapping on the window with his flashlight. Gave him a thumbs up to indicate I was okay. Didn't work. Turns out that in the front seat was a 16-year-old girl. I was 19, also half naked. Cops questioned me. I couldn't even tell them her name. Asked if I had been drinking. Yes sir. And driving. No sir. Told them we had come back to where I was parked at the end of a dead end by the woods. Yeah right. To talk. They actually gave each of us a warning and a ride home. They spoke to her parents but not mine. In case you didn't guess, this is not in the USA. After being single for 2 years, I met a really pretty girl at a friend's house one night. We started making out, and it got a bit hot and heavy. Due to being surrounded by friends, we decided to wait it out until the next night, where we could both go to my place and have it not be completely awkward. Cue us at the best place to get scorpion bowls, guaranteed getting laid drink, in town. Had a couple apps, NBD. We get to my house, and she's going down on me, very aggressively, no teeth or anything, just a girl who likes to get gagged. Next thing I knew, I'm covered in this chick's crab rangoon / scorpion juice puke, and she is freaking out. She rushes to the shower, I get in behind her, and did it. It smelled so bad but doesn't matter, had sex. Back in the high school days, my friends and I met up with some girls in a parking lot to hang out. For whatever reason one of my friends told one of the girls my grandmother just died. This girl decides that it is her job to cheer me up. I inform her I'm too upset to kiss her, but a BJ would take my mind off things. She then suggests sex instead. I agree. My grandma is still alive. On the 9th of November 2001, my high school was next to a military base. When they tightened base access, the road got jammed and 90% of the teachers/students couldn't get to campus. But me and my girlfriend, let's call her Jane, lived close. When we found the school almost empty and having no clue that the towers were down and the Pentagon was on fire, we decided to ditch. I opened the side door on my van and told her to get in. It was a Chevy Astro with an Arctic camouflage paint job. She always made fun of my camouflage van and made no exception that day. I told her to get the fuck in the van. It's Ferris Bueller Day and I knew where to find a jacuzzi. We ended up getting fast food and driving around town for hours. Meanwhile, the nation was grounding all air traffic, mobilizing military reserves, and spreading general chaos over the airwaves. But the school finally populated, organized, and started taking roll. They started asking around for the whereabouts of students still unaccounted for. Jane's parents were already calling the cops to report her missing. Then they found a witness. One of her friends, who didn't know me, told them the last place she saw Jane. She was getting pushed into a strange van. I know. Fast forward an hour or so, and I'm in handcuffs in the back of a patrol car. Jane is crying, pleading, being ushered into a different car, while a third officer searches my van. At this point I should mention a juvenile habit I once had, stealing cigarettes and booze from work, and selling them on campus, or trading them for herb. They sort of found my stockpile that day. I was a bit freaked, sitting there in handcuffs for the first time, under arrest for kidnapping, underage drinking, smoking, possibly distribution, and if they kept searching, possession of marijuana. So I turned my attention away from the horror show outside my window. I started paying attention to the radio, but there was nothing on except the news. Cue epic mindfuck as I catch up on the events in New York. The rest of the day was surreal. In the principal's office, about 10 different people took turns shouting at me, 30 minutes altogether. Then they sent me to class. They had more to deal with that day, and once it was clear that all they had on me was ditching school and hiding booze in my car, they reserved punishment for another day. That night Jane broke into my house. She had only been to my house once and never into my room. That night she came through our backyard, found my room, and woke me up. She was in a weird mood, eyes puffy, and insisted on climbing into bed. She was just scared and wanted to be held, but it was the first time we had been that close, and before the morning we'd both lost our virginity. I woke thinking the world had ended, but I had somehow been crowned king on the last day. What did she do at the first sight of this new dawn? She broke up with me. She said she was only dating me to lose her virginity because she thought I wasn't a virgin. She was angry that I had lied. I never told her I wasn't a virgin, but I did tell others. It was all over. I went on to get suspended for a week, grounded for a month, and my van impounded. But it didn't matter. I had sex. I once spent a summer on a ranch in Montana. It was a beautiful farm, with lush rolling hills and verdant green pastures. The sheep grazed in the picturesque meadows, free and happily. It was my job to refresh their water supply in the morning, as well as other things. They loved me. They would always bleat so happily in the morning when they saw me. They were also friendly, consistently coming up to me and rubbing their heads against my legs. Anyway, while filling the water trough one morning, I met the female of my dreams. It was the owner's daughter. She was 17. I was 16, and was wearing a cowgirl outfit, riding in on her stallion. That night, I learned that farmers are very overprotective of their daughters. I also learned Montana gets very cold when you are chased with a shotgun with nothing but a condom on. About 5 years ago I was at this bar with my girlfriend and a good guy friend. We were all getting shitty drunk. My friend meets this woman in her 40s and decides it's time to smash some cougar poon. The cougar invites us back to her place for some more drinks. The cougar and my buddy go upstairs to have sex and she says we can sleep in the room next to hers. So, me and the GF start fucking. About 10 minutes into the act the door flies open and the lights turn on. A horrified teenage girl gets a good look of my ass while I'm plowing away. Turns out, it was her daughter's bedroom. She screams bloody murder and runs into her mom's room to find her fucking my friend. They proceed to have a screaming match while the mother was still butt-ass naked. To make things worse, my girlfriend was on the rag and bled on the poor girl's bed. Doesn't matter, had sex.